Welcome back to another episode. My name is David, and today I'll be talking to you about how I got my internship at Bank of Montreal, BMO. How I got my internship at BMO was actually by attending a career conference where one of the sponsors, recruiters, were there. Christina was very enthusiastic about why she liked working at BMO, and when she took a look at my resume, she felt that I would make a good fit for the team right away. She set up an appointment with one of the managers who was really interested in the type of experience I had, and he wanted to learn more about it. Here are the 4 things that I spoke about that would end up getting me the role at BMO. The first one being talking about my previous internship experience, the second one being my extracurriculars, my third one being hackathons, and my fourth one being research assistant. So my previous internship experience. My previous internship experience consisted of me working as a web UX developer as well as a test engineer intern. In these roles, I was exposed to new technology that were really sophisticated and challenging to work with, to a point that I felt overwhelmed. To overcome this sense of overwhelmness, what I would do is work on smaller projects until I understood the strengths and weaknesses of each of the technology I was working with. When I was able to do this, I was able to work on larger, more sophisticated projects, and then that's how I was able to feel much more proficient in working with it. The second thing with the internship experience I had was understanding the importance of an empathetic team. Having an empathetic team meant that I was able to communicate with my teammates how I was working on the project, maybe the difficulties that I had. Being able to communicate with them meant at times that I need to be able to describe what challenges I was facing, what I've done to overcome it, to help them help me. In doing this, they were able to help me solve the problems I was having in the least amount of time. That made the work go by much easier. The points I learned from these previous internship experience is proficiency through experimentation as well as precise communication. So the second thing is doing extracurriculars. In extracurriculars, I would participate in campus activities, campus clubs, as well as a nonprofit organization like Black Boys Code. Black Boys Code is a nonprofit organization that helps Black boys between the ages of 8 and 17 learn how to use computational thinking to solve technical as well as everyday problems. Working as I mentioned in this role allowed me to really test my understanding of how to read and write code. In this role, I showed to the boys how to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, amongst other technology that build the interactive and fun website that they use on a day-to-day basis. Being in this role allowed me to really show how powerful this technology is for them and what they can build on top of it if they are really curious. In this role, at times it could be very challenging just because the code may not work and other issues. So I had to use tools like debugging tools or write little bits of code to see what would work and what isn't working. In this role, showing them these type of problem-solving abilities, I would show that coding is fun, although it can be a challenge at times, to not also give up as well. The thing I took away from working in these extracurricular things is the importance of being organized. How are you structuring information for people to understand, to be inquisitive, to ask questions, and to also be reflective. Always look back on why things did not work, because when you're able to reflect on it, you can always make a better decision going forward. So hackathons are the third point. And hackathons show what you know versus what you don't know in a short amount of time. When I spoke to the manager, I was telling him of the 2 projects I worked on. The first project I worked on removes the implicit bias from the hiring process. The second project I worked on is a data-focused privacy tool for corporations to collect data on consumers and protect that information. In both these roles, I worked as a front-end developer. The first project I worked on was using the tool React.js, whereas my other teammates used a back-end tool, Google Firebase. In the second project I worked on, I used Vue.js, whereas my teammates used Ethereum blockchain language, Solidity. Working on these projects were really exciting, but the things that I learned from it is setting and prioritizing goals because of time constraints, as well as focusing on the big picture. So my fourth point is research assistant. The story behind me getting this role was had me attending class where I had a guest lecturer. The guest lecturer was really captivating in his research and describing how it's making an impact in the world, and that was something that I really felt interested in and I really wanted to learn more about. After class, I spoke to him to learn more about his research and to ask if there was any open opportunities at the time. Unfortunately, there was not, but he said to keep in touch and he'll let me know. During this time, I would send him articles as well as any other interesting content that was relevant to his research, which he really appreciated and was always saying like, thank you. When the opportunity did open up, he reached out to me and asked, would I be interested in working with him and his PhD student, to which I said yes. The thing I learned from this is respectful persistence as well as curiosity. People who are working a long time in their field actually really like their work and they want to be surrounded by people who show some type of enthusiasm or curiosity about their field. So here are some of the things that I learned that helped me get the role at BMO. The first one is showing proficiency through practice and precise communication, being organized, inquisitive, and reflective, setting and prioritizing goals, and focusing on the big picture, and showing curiosity and persistence. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.